Welcome back to Sports Talk ATL. I am Chase Earl, joined by Alex Lord and Jake Gordon. The NFL just wrapped up, but the rumors haven't stopped even after the draft. And we have a juicy one from Simon Hunter of the Action Network. And we're going to play a little buy or sell here because I don't know who Simon Hunter is. I've never heard of him before this. He does work with the Action Network. I don't know if he has NFL insiders, but this is a juicy clip from him saying that the Falcons were targeting Kyler Murray and Ryan Tannehill during the draft, looking to upgrade the quarterback position. Now, Ryan Tannehill is a guy connected with Arthur Smith, who we have talked about them potentially going after. Kyler Murray, obviously a more exciting option, but he's injured and will not play this season. So let's play a little buy or sell. Jake, I'll start with you. How much do you believe this rumor about the Falcons targeting one of these better quarterbacks than Desmond Ridder?
I'll put a pin in Ryan Tannehill being better than Desmond Ridder. If anything, I see that as a downgrade just because of his age, his contract. I think his contract is close to expiring, but you'd be paying a lot more money for probably equal or maybe a little bit better production, but that's not going to win you a Super Bowl. So I would buy that actually. I think Arthur Smith has some interest in Ryan Tannehill. I don't know if it ever came to the offer that we were told about, the fact that the Falcons had a package in place. I don't know if I'm buying that. I don't know if I buy that with Murray either, but it is interesting, especially considering the Cardinals are probably going to have two top 4 or 5 picks next year with a chance to get Caleb Williams and Marvin Harrison Jr. And you want to talk about accelerating a rebuild. That's 2 guys to really get that done, especially with Drake May in the fold too, if you don't get the first pick. So I don't know. I'm not buying either of these. I do buy the interest, but I'm not sure that I'm buying that there was a package in place.
Yeah, the Titans were reportedly looking to trade up for Anthony Richardson before he was taken up by the Colts. So I think that the Titans, if they could, they would move off of Ryan Tannehill today. Obviously, it didn't work out. And I echo everything that Jake just said about the interest with Arthur Smith. Though I will push back. I mean, I think Ryan Tannehill is, way ahead of Desmond Ridder based purely off of experience. Desmond Ridder is going to struggle. I think his ceiling is like Ryan Tannehill. I think he's definitely more athletic than Ryan Tannehill, but Ryan Tannehill's sneaky athletic. That sneaky white athletic.
He was a wide receiver in college.
Yeah. So I think, but Desmond Ridder is still more athletic than him. But I think that in terms of potential, if he turned into Ryan Tannehill, I think everybody would be happy with that. That's a bit better than league average, right outside the top 10. And I think the idea of Arthur Smith and Ryan Tannehill reuniting would, resonate in Arthur Smith's head. I think he'd be like, yeah, I know what I'm getting with them. And to Jake's point about, it's not going to win you a Super Bowl. Are we sure Desmond Ridder can win a Super Bowl? I know we haven't seen him play much, but like if we're talking about ceilings and going off what my ceiling for him would be is Ryan Tannehill, then in that sense, he can't win a Super Bowl. The Kyler Murray thing is a little bit more off to me. Only because I don't really see the Cardinals. I mean, they got to take on $90 million.
I don't think they could afford to do it. Yeah, I don't think they could afford to do it if they wanted to.
Yeah, that's an insane amount of dead money to inherit. I think so. The Falcons broke the record with Matt Ryan, and it was around $40 million. That would more than double the record. I'm not saying it's impossible. I just find it hard to believe they would do it. They do have a new regime in place, so there's nobody knows what they're going to do. I'm selling on the fact with Jake that there was a package in place, but I don't think that it would be crazy if something came out that the Falcons did, mull over a trade for either of the guys.
Yeah, I mean, Ryan Tannehill, to me, I do think he's probably slightly better than Desmond Ridder, and Desmond Ridder's ceiling could be that. To me, what he said is that the package was the Titans moving up to the 8th pick. So I guess we would have taken the 11th and taken on that contract. I don't even know to me, at least the way I've kind of read into the Ryan Tannehill situation, like that's basically a salary dump. I don't know, like if we're giving up our top draft pick. I mean, it just seems like we wouldn't be giving up much. I feel like we'd be doing a favor taking off that contract and getting rid of Ryan Tannehill. Now, Arthur Smith totally could think he knows what he has in Ryan Tannehill. I do think if you put Ryan Tannehill in this offense tomorrow, they'd be pretty damn good, especially since there shouldn't be a lot of transition period with them having that kind of familiarity. It just doesn't make a lot of sense to me because I think, is Tannehill the answer long-term? No. Is Ridder the answer? We don't know. but I would almost rather just see what they have in Ritter and not move up. But they probably could have gotten Bijan Robinson with the 11th pick if the Eagles didn't take him. So I don't know. To me, it just kind of seems like a bunch of malarkey. The Kyler Murray thing is exciting to me. I think Kyler Murray could be a really good offensive player. I think if you put him in Arthur Smith's offense with all these weapons, and listen, he'd have an entire year to kind of just learn. Now, you basically be punting next season, but are the Falcons going to win anything next season? No. But you do have a whole year for him to sit under Arthur Smith if they made that trade and pulled the trigger. Then he comes back healthy. You get the roster better. And maybe with no quarterback, assuming Desmond Ritter probably goes over in that trade, with no quarterback, who knows? The Falcons could have another top 10 pick. You get Kyler Murray back, and it's almost like a Joe Burrow situation. Now this roster is in such a great situation with a competent quarterback. So that at least intrigues me. Like, the idea intrigues me. Do I believe either of these rumors really were close to happening? No. Did they explore it? They probably explored everything. But do I think there was like a draft night trade on the table and it was like, oh, you're on the clock. Do you want this? We got the package. Like, all you have to do is say yes, and the Falcons or the Cardinals pulled out. No, I don't think there was anything like that going on.
It just wouldn't make a ton of sense either with all the short-term signings they made on defense. So if you sign a bunch of these guys to one-year deals or 2-year deals with an option, for this year, I just don't really understand doing all that. And then are we sure that Kyler Murray's out for the year? I know he's going to miss some time.
I don't know. Yeah, in terms of like the standard ACL recovery, that would put him back at like September or October. So who knows what the Cardinals are going to do with a whole new regime coming in. But like in terms of the actual recovery, he could play in 2023.
Yeah, regardless, it just seems like these came out of nowhere and just from some source that we don't really have. So if we're just buying or selling these rumors, I'm selling them pretty hard. I could see them exploring those things. Maybe that's something they explored, and maybe he got a whiff of that and he ran with it and made it like, oh, they had a deal in place. I have a hard time believing that this random guy had sources inside the building that no one else did, that this deal was that close to happening.
That nobody in the entire, not Rappaport, not Schefter, nobody.
No one even hinted at it. There was no even like Ryan Tannehill and Arthur Smith. That connection would have been easy for people to hint at, and no one would be like, oh, that's stupid. Like, that makes sense. Like, if there was any whiff of that in the air in the NFL insider world, you'd have to think that'd be reported pretty quickly because it makes sense. Like, the Kyler Murray thing, maybe not as much, but the Ryan Tannehill definitely would have been reported if anyone had any inclination, then that was a possibility.
Yeah, and even, the Deshaun thing, not to bring up sore subjects, but there was still like people all around the NFL were like, this was a thing. Like, it was very well known that the Falcons were in on this. This wasn't some, and we haven't heard a peep from anybody. This is the only thing. And I'm not saying this guy's wrong. He could be right. It happens, but
yeah, I do think the Falcons probably, hypothetically, if they were searching around, they'd probably do it in the dark because of what happened with Matt Ryan. They would probably try to keep it as low profile as possible because, I think they've made a statement with Desmond Ritter and declaring him the starter this early to try to give him some confidence and stuff like that. And they saw what happened with Matt Ryan. They saw how that transpired, and it didn't do the situation any good, letting that go public. So if they were going after a quarterback after naming Desmond Ritter the starter, they'd probably try to do it as dark as possible, I would assume.
I'm going to push back a little bit, and I want to just, take on that Desmond Ritter cap for all these guys who are just, overhyping him, frankly. That, yes, the Falcons have been blatantly pushing him, being like, this is our guy. This is our guy. Every single guy, Arthur Blank, Arthur Smith, Terry Fontenot, the veterans on the team, Calais Campbell. They mentioned they watched film with Calais Campbell and showed him what they thought about Desmond Ritter and what he could be. So I think that the Falcons truly do mean that they believe in Desmond Ritter. They're going to see what he gives them this year, but they will not close the doors on upgrading any position, including quarterback. And they said that, with all this pre-draft interview stuff, CJ Stroud, Anthony Richardson, Levis, I think that, frankly, the Matt Ryan situation was handled very poorly. I think everybody could agree that. But this regime could care less about your feelings, and they'll ship you off and replace you if opportunity presents itself that is better than what they currently have.
Yeah, and they should. I mean, listen, anyone who thinks just because they said Desmond Ridder is the starter that they're not looking to upgrade is foolish, because he has proven nothing. And I know people want to be like, well, his 4 games were as good as Matt Ryan's. Well, Josh Allen's 4 games were terrible, and he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. Your 4-game sample size does not always translate into you being an NFL Hall of Famer. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry to break it to you, but there's no guarantee that Desmond Ridder isn't the worst quarterback in the NFC, which most people outside of Atlanta believe he will be. Now, I don't believe he's going to be that bad, but let's be realistic. We have a quarterback here that is almost assuredly going to be in between spots 10 and 16 in the NFC, not just the NFL. 10 and 16 in the NFC. If he gets to 16 in the NFL, we'll all be happy. We'll all be jumping for joy. That's not the guy that you just close off doors like this is our guy for. So if they're not completely looking under every stone for the quarterback of the future, which I've been preaching all draft process, I said I wanted to get a quarterback. They should be taking as many shots as they possibly can, evaluating every situation. So, yeah, did they probably call about Kyler Murray at some point? Absolutely. Tannehill, I'd be shocked if they didn't because of the familiarity. Do I think anything was close to happening? I don't know. That's kind of where we're at. But they have to be looking until they figure out, until they know that they have their guy. It has to be quarterback, especially with the rest of the roster looking competent. Like, this offensive skill set with Arthur Smith has the chance to be a good offense.
I was just about to say, listen, and I have an article waiting to be posted. Desmond Ridder has 0 excuses this year. They're returning 4 starters on the offensive line and hopefully inject a better, more stable left guard. And then arguably the best skill group in the NFL, wide receiver 2 leaves a lot to be desired, but the offense doesn't call to have this elite wide receiver 2. The defense is much improved on all 3 levels. It's going to be a competent group. It's not going to be some 85 Bears unit that's, keeping guys under in single digits every single game, but it's good enough to play the game the Falcons want to play, which is run the ball, possess the clock, and keep it a low-scoring, grimy game. Desmond Ridder, if from where I sit, his ceiling is, about a little bit average of better than average quarterback. So, that what you said, the 10 to 16 range in terms of the entire NFL. Can that win a Super Bowl? You have to have a damn good roster to have a slightly above average quarterback and win in the NFL.
I mean, dude, we saw the Titans as the 1 seed. They sacked Joe Burrow 9 times, and they still lost that game at home as the 1 seed. It's not a guarantee. You got to have quarterback play, and that's why I don't think I'd be very happy if they did go get Ryan Tannehill. I would rather take my chances with Ridder because I know what Tannehill is. I don't know what Ridder is. I wish I knew what Ridder was. He should have started long ago during last season, but I know what Ryan Tannehill is. And
even, to bring up some sore subjects, I mean, we got Kyle Pitts on his rookie contract, Drake London, now Bijan Robinson. We should have had an idea of what Ridder was at week 12 last year, 12 games under his belt. That way this season we could maximize all these rookie contracts. And I know I'm just backpedaling and coulda, shoulda, woulda, but that's total bullshit. And it was complete gross negligence by this regime. I hate that it took that long. You guys got 4 starts. We need these guys on their rookie contracts to maximize our winning potential. Our window is not going to be open forever unless we have Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, and Desmond Ridder's not that guy, and that guy's probably not walking through the door anytime soon.
Yep.
Yeah, and I coulda, shoulda, woulda, because I said last year, we need to see what we have in Ridder because it was pretty clear from the beginning that it was Mariota. I mean, he was never going to be the guy anyway. It was pretty clear that he wasn't going to win games.
I think that was the most frustrating part is Mariota was awful. Mariota was
keeping Ridder on the bench either.
Yeah. Mariota was literally trying to give away games, and we were like, no, man, this guy gives us the best chance to win. And then we saw Desmond Ridder start 4 games, and there was very little difference between the two. Ridder might even have been better. At least he didn't turn the ball over. So, yeah, it's frustrating because if we had seen a bigger picture, we could have made a bigger move for a free agent quarterback or traded up in the draft. I do believe, though, and this is the last thing we can say on this topic, though, if C.J. Stroud or Anthony Richardson had fell a little bit further, that the Falcons would have targeted one of those guys.